Deep in the deserts of ancient Nehekhara, the Black Pyramid of Nagash was a structure built to channel and harness the winds of magic. The Great Necromancer was one of the most powerful and evil creatures in Warhammer lore, and will very likely play a huge part in the coming Total War Warhammer trilogy. This map by Hera Dream, who has already made some amazing Tomb Kings mods thus far, looks to be the culmination of his efforts. A gigantic capture point battle in the shadow of the Titanic Pyramid, and some awesome content to tide us over until Total War Warhammer 2. So who will be fighting for control of the pyramid? Settra the Imperishable, of course, atop his Chariot of the Gods, facing off against his mortal enemy Nagash, the Great Necromancer. Rows of Tomb Guard, gold-plated war chariots, Ushabti, Bone Giants, and Screaming Skull catapults are on the field, and ranks upon ranks of undead Nehekharan warriors, summoned by their Lich Priests to battle. Remember, it was Nagash who poisoned the Great River Mortis and brought the Great Catastrophe to Nehekhara, so there are debts that need to be paid. On the far right of my army, I've got another contingent to fight for control of the capture point, and a towering Necrolith Colossi, and a Necro Sphinx. Now, obviously, there's some serious limitations to modding when you can't add your own custom-made assets, but I must say, even though this is obviously just a gigantic demigryph, I think it fits the faction aesthetic very well. It does look like an ancient Nehekharan monster to me, even if it doesn't look exactly like anything straight out of the Tomb King's army book. So I think it looks really, really cool and fits the faction pretty well. So I've got some Necrolith Colossi, or Shabti rather, moving into the capture point to capture that, and make sure my opponent Gojira can't move his army in there. Let's take a look at these shrines. We've got a White King here, and look at the followers of Nagash. God, that pyramid is so cool looking in the background. This map is amazing. Seriously incredible what modders are able to do. So a bunch of Cryptors, bunch of Graveguard. I think he's got 12 or 13 Graveguards. This is a 40 unit cat battle. And over here, we have the Big Daddy Necromancer himself, equipped with the Book of Nagash and the Staff of Power, which greatly increases his Winds of Magic pool. Next to him is a White King and a bunch of Graveguard backing him up. That's a really cool looking model. Again, limited with what you're able to do in modding, but with the assets that are already in the game, I think that fits it pretty perfectly. It's not the end times Nagash where he's gigantic and rising above the ground and way bigger than any giant or any other kind of monstrosity you could think of, but still pretty effing cool looking. So these are a bunch of Cryptors trying to capture the shrine or move up to it now, and they're getting skewered from long range by my Bone Giant Archer, which is, it shoots Scorpion bolts effectively. Massive armor-piercing damage and incredibly long range and accuracy, and I'm just going to be plunking away at those Cryptors, making sure they can't close the distance and get into my undead warriors. Look at that, one shot, one kill, right through the heart. That is another Cryptor that's going to drop. Screaming Skull catapults are going to open fire now as the Graveguard get ready to move across the desert sands and sweep into melee. My brain just registered it, but I'm pretty sure that first Cryptor got shot in the ass. I think it literally died from getting a gigantic arrow in the bunghole, which is pretty hilarious. Grim dark way to go for sure. And those Cryptors, look at how much damage they've already taken. Gotten shot, I think 3 or 4 times by the Bone Giant, and already taken about half of their HP worth of damage. Man, that thing is doing a ton of DPS from range, which is exactly what I want to see. Use that as a sniper unit to take down some high-value targets. Maybe get rid of those corpse carts and the other monster units as well. Screaming Skulls, not going to be incredible in terms of damage, but they will drop the leadership of enemy units. They won't cause terror or anything. It won't even matter because I'm facing off against the vampire counts effectively. Although in this mod, the followers of Nagash are their own faction, and they are about to get pummeled by some war chariot charges. Look at that. Beautiful. Not going to be a whole lot of blood in this replay because everything is undead and it's mostly skeletons and whites, but man, those chariots are still satisfying as hell, ripping through the front lines and doing a lot of damage to the Graveguard, basically tying everything up so my Screaming Skulls and my range units can continue firing in. Remember, Nehekharan warriors, Tomb Kings in general, can use bows because they aren't undead automatons like zombies and skeletons that are raised by the vampire counts and other necromancers. They are raised by the Lich Priest, which maintains their old warrior personas and allows them to use their fine motor skills that they had in life to an extent. So that's why they're able to use bows. We've got Ushabti wading into melee now here against some Cryptors, and they're going to hold the line basically and make sure that I can keep this capture point capped and get that leadership buff. I believe in the capture point battles, if you hold 2 or more of the capture points, you get a significant leadership bonus. So that's what we're trying to do. We're fighting over all these shrines and get that leadership bonus so our troops can stay in the fight for longer and not crumble. My Necro Sphinx is going to wade into melee with that Vargulf and smack him around a little bit. And I'm going to reinforce him with some Asaf Ushabti, which fire poison arrows. Very high armor piercing damage, very long range. They're a very nice support unit to fire in some armor piercing ammo. Shifting back over, we can see that a lot of the Graveguard have waded into melee now. Settra the Imperishable has been let loose on his Chariot of the Gods, charging in. Settra does not serve, he rules. He's going to get a nice charge in there and then pull out. Those are spearmen, so he doesn't want to be sticking around for too long. He does have access to the Lore of Death and the Lore of Light. Looks like Nen of Amantok about to get sent into that Vargulf, who is going to be smacking one of those Tomb Guard into the desert sands. But that Nen of Amantok will hold it down for a while. And so there was some more Tomb Guard cresting the hill now, coming down, and a bunch of Tomb Guard with halberds could probably chunk this Vargulf down very quickly, even through all that regen and relatively decent stats. So that monster might be in trouble if he's not able to pull out of this. Nen of Amantok didn't hold him down for too long here. And he seems to be content for now to push them around a little bit. Screaming Skull is still firing in, still dropping leadership of everything that's in melee. And Necrolith Colossi is still getting some really nice shots in as well. But Settra is pulling around in that War Chariot, trying to get some nice charges off, and we'll shift back over and see how this fight is going. So the Necrolith, or Necrosphinx rather, is smacking that Vargulf around. Look at the HP of that thing. Dropping down, already crumbling, and it has actually completely dominated that engagement, which means I basically have unimpeded rear charges into the back of all these Graveguard with the Necrosphinx, and there's no mobility over on this side of the field for the Vampire counts to get into my archers, who will be able to fire in unimpeded as well. So things definitely seem to be going very well on this side, even with the Cryptors in melee. They're going to be tough to bring down, but look at that. The Corpse Card is getting absolutely shredded by range fire from the Yosafu Shabti and from the Bone Giant. Only one or two more shots should be enough to bring it down, and it is going to completely crumble. Necromancer on top of it is going to die, and that Corpse Cart, which was regenerating all of those units, is going to die. Very nice death there. It's pretty important if I want to win that melee engagement, taking all that regen off the field. Ushabti are killing it, wading through all those skeletons and Cryptors who are trying to get inside the shrine. Not having any of that, and the War Chariot's outside, getting some nice charges into the Graveguard, but seem to have been bogged down here and losing some models pretty quickly. So they've done a good job kind of blobbing up those Graveguard, allowing the Screaming Skulls to continue firing in, but the War Chariot seem to be on their last legs. I'm going to have to pull my Nahekaran archers back, make sure they don't get tied down in melee, and the Vargulf now is crumbling as well, and Spirit Leech going off on Nagash. So are we going to get Settra and Nagash to get a duel here? Not sure I want to go into melee with him. He's really scary in melee. He's got a lot of powerful stats, and I believe he even has a degen aura, kind of like a Mortis engine, although I'm not 100% sure about that. But he's really not someone you want to engage in melee early on in a battle, I don't think. So I'm going to be kind of allowing him to do what he wants to do. Need to get a Bone Giant or something in there as well, and then teamed up with Settra might be able to bring him down. Nice charge into the side of that Vargulf. Settra and the Chariot of the Gods trying to bring him down. With the Necrolith Colossi, I think we should be able to bring down this Vargulf, which will be a big win for us over on this side. But Nagash is still nearby, still being a terror in the middle of the engagement. And looks like some of the Tomb Guard are preparing to take a charge from the Skeleton Warriors in from the flank. Graveguard are winning. This is the biggest issue I have right now in this battle. The Graveguard are going to be able to beat a lot of my Nahekaran warriors in 1v1 combat. My Tomb Guard can go toe-to-toe with them, but the rest of my Skeleton Warriors and stuff will not be able to. So I'll have to rely on my monsters and the Giants to win these battles, and definitely the Necrosphinx as well. Over on this side, things are going way better for me. The Graveguard are crumbling all across the field, and if I'm able to push through here, make sure I can control the shrine, then I'll be able to reinforce the engagement over on the other side. The problem is there's a pretty long distance in between both engagements, so might be a while before I'm able to reinforce. Ushabti continuously pushing forward, driving back the tides of undead, making their necrotechs proud, and their ferocity has been a big reason I'm still in control of the shrine. Not sure the followers of Nagash will be able to wrest control of it back from me. Nahekaran warriors dropping in droves to the Graveguard, but I think I will be able to cut them down and win on that side of the field relatively soon here. But this is another matter entirely. Even Settra has taken a lot of damage now. Tomb Guard halberds on their last legs, charging downhill, into the front of these Graveguard with a bunch of armor-piercing damage. I'm still able to fire in with the Asaf Ushabti, but my army is definitely beginning to crumble. Even my Bone Giant taking a lot of damage from Nagash, and a White King giving chase to the Chariot of the Gods. Settra kind of bitching out a little bit here. Don't want to be engaging the White King because honestly, he can do a lot of damage to me, and Settra doesn't have any regen. That's the difference between Nagash and him. Nagash is going to be able to resurrect himself, basically continuously regen throughout the course of the battle. Unfortunately, Settra is unable to because he doesn't have access to the lore of vampires. And he's not a construct. There's no necrotext to be repairing him in the middle of the game. With that said, managed to bring down one of the corpse cards with Unholy Lodestone. No more regen from that thing, so that's pretty important. Settra at half HP, still running around, still trying to make an impact on the game, but he's taken a lot of damage. Gotta be careful with him. If I lose him, if I lose my Hierophant, that could be pretty much game, because again, like the vampire counts, you are going to start crumbling if you lose all your leadership from your gen. Nagash waiting in there now, destroying these Tomb Guard halberds, and even though he does count as large, with all that regen, even the Tomb Guard's halberd probably won't be enough to bring him down in melee. I was out of ammo on those skeleton archers, I believe, so I'm going to let them get caught by the Graveguard, just tie them down a bit. My Necrosphinx doing work here. I mean, they're zombies. He's going to be able to smash them apart. Animation's gonna be a little bit goofy. He's kind of has a trouble focusing on a specific entity in a unit, and sometimes he's just smacking on random stuff, but the zombies are gonna die, and he does have a lot of kills. The Necrosphinx has made a big impact on this side of the battle for sure, and I'm finally wrapping up everything, collapsing in from the flank, and that should be enough to win final control of that shrine. I pulled Settra away because I did not want to deal with Nagash yet, and I don't know how I'm gonna take him down. This is the biggest issue I have with the game at the moment. If Nagash is still alive, he can continuously resurrect zombies with his gigantic Winds of Magic pool, and he's also a terror in melee combat as well. So from what I've played in this mod so far, I think he might be stronger than Settra, but that doesn't mean I can't win the battle. I just got to be careful with how I use the Chariot of the Gods. So those Crypt Cores are finally crumbling, Graveguard as well. And once that happens, my Necrosphinx and my Necrolith Colossi can move across the battlefield and come to Settra's aid. Nice charge there on these crumbling Graveguard, and they should be gone pretty soon here after a couple more charges from Settra. But I'm in a bit of a predicament at this point in the battle. I'm smashing on some stupid whites, which is a good thing. They should disintegrate very soon here after a couple more charges from the Chariot, but Gojira has control of 2 out of 3 shrines, which means he has a significant leadership advantage. He has stronger and more numerous infantry than me, and killing Nagash is really hard. So I'm gonna need to consolidate my forces and maybe even get a little bit creative if I want to seal the deal and pull out this victory. Every time I look at that pyramid, it is amazing. Seriously, Haradrim, if you're listening to this video or watching or whatever, you did a fantastic job. This map is seriously incredible. But besides that point, let's see what's left here. Bone Giants are crumbling. The Screaming Skulls have been closed down and shut down in melee. The Tomb Guard are about to go bye-bye. Bone Giant still getting a couple more shots and surrounded by some Graveguard. Should be able to kill them. But again, I have no real answer for Nagash. I'm gonna drop the Banishment Vortex on top of some Skeleton Warriors. That was honestly a waste of Winds of Magic, but I did it because it looked pretty cool, and I wanted to maybe get some kills with a Vortex. I didn't get a charge into Nagash here. Honestly, I could Spirit Leech him all day long, but he's gonna regen most of that health, so probably would have been a better use of my Winds of Magic, but I can't fight him in melee. I don't know what I'm gonna do to kill him. Balance War is in my favor, but now this part is actually really interesting, okay? So, Settra is debilitated, which means he's basically exhausted, and Nagash is animated, so I think... Oh, nice charge there. I actually killed a bunch of zombies. So, if I'm debilitated and he is animated, I think that's basically the difference between being exhausted and being active, but I literally cannot get away from him. He's actually catching up to me. And this is a great example of the importance of stamina, because Settra's move speed on his Chariot is like 92 speed, and Nagash is only like 55 move speed, but he's actually able to catch up to me because he's in the middle of his charge animation, and he's less tired, which is super bad. I'm still trying to pull away, and I'll go back to that in a couple seconds here. Right now, some slaves are fighting some Graveguard at the shrine, but I'm continuously trying to pull away from Big Daddy Nagash, and he will not let me get away, even though my move speed is way better. I'm basically exhausted, so I can't get away from this engagement, continuously getting tied down and slowed. And Settra, the not-so-imperishable, is gonna go down. And that is very bad. The balance bar said I was winning the battle, but with Settra dead, things are starting to look way more bleak. I still have a chance in this game. I still have a Bone Giant and the Necro Sphinx and a few bits and pieces of Tomb Guard left that will probably crumble. All he has left is a White King, the Grave Guard that are at that shrine, and Big Daddy Nagash himself. But, man, I was winning, and now things are starting to look a lot scarier. This could still go either way, though. It is going to be a crazy ending here. So let's see how things progress. Going to go into double fast forward for just a little bit here, and then press play and see what we can do. So that gigantic Demigryph, the Necro Sphinx, going to charge in. It shouldn't be very many attacks before that White King goes down here. I mean, it had very little HP when it first waded into combat, and some zombies getting summoned, which is actually pretty important in and of itself. They're not going to do any damage to either of these units. They can't hurt the Bone Giant, the Ushabti, or the Necro Sphinx. But what they do is soak up damage, so I can't do single target damage to Nagash. What happens is if you have AoE attacks like the Necro Sphinx does, all that damage is going to get mitigated by the surrounding models, the zombies that are going to be around Nagash and kind of protecting him in that engagement. So instead of just being able to punch on Nagash himself, a lot of that damage is going to get spread out to the zombies, which is really important in that engagement. We'll see if I'm able to DPS him down, but with that regen, he should hit the regen cap soon, but it's going to be a really tough fight. Nakaran warriors fighting over the Grave Guard for the control of the shrine. I really want leadership bonuses here in the late game if I'm gonna pull it out, and we can get a good look at like those custom made assets, man. Those are so cool. I don't know how he did that. I don't even know what assets those skulls are. But like there's the gargoyle, which I've seen in some of the vampire count settlements, but I don't even know how he added those giant bones, skeleton, whatever skulls on top of it. It's pretty cool looking. But alright, so we got the Necro Sphinx, and we got the Necrolith Colossi, which both are starting to look pretty low here, bashing on the Great Necromancer himself. And can Nagash pull this one out by himself effectively? He's going to be able to continuously summon these zombies, and each time he does that, with his Staff of Power, that's going to be a serious issue again, because they're going to be absorbing so much damage. Screaming Skull firing in, trying to lower the leadership of the zombies, but honestly, I should not be doing that. I think I run a lot more risk of just smacking my Necro Sphinx in the flank or something, because he's such a gigantic target. Although I don't actually know, when you blow up a unit in proportion like that, when you make a Demigryph that's normally much smaller, that big, I don't know if it makes the hitboxes way bigger too. Maybe a modder could give me the answer to that. I'm not actually sure. Either way though, he's starting to look very low. Only a couple more attacks from Nagash might be able to bring the Necro Sphinx down. Things are definitely starting to look bleak here. I think Nagash has hit the regen cap at this point in the game, which means any damage I do to him means that he won't be able to regen any of it, but he still is pretty much full strength at this point in the game, and my Skeleton Warriors and Skeleton Bowmen are not going to be able to beat Grave Guard in melee. So I'm going to need to basically hope that Nagash runs out of Winds of Magic too, and is unable to summon these zombies, so that the Bone Giant and the Necro Sphinx can finally finish him off. I don't know where the Bone Giant... I think Bone Giant died. I think the Bone Giant is dead now, and the Necro Sphinx is starting to crumble as well. I have the Asaf Ushabti in there as well. They have armor piercing. You can see Nagash has taken a lot of damage, but able to summon another zombie here. Oh man, this is getting so close. If those zombies weren't there, I think Nagash would already be dead. But basically on his makeshift Mortis engine with his own books of necromancy floating around his head, he is standing strong in the face of this monstrosity, and it looks like he might even be winning. That Staff of Power has made a huge impact in the late game too. He should have already been out of Winds of Magic at this point, and it is finally going to go down. Necro Sphinx is going to go down, and that's going to leave basically the Asaf Ushabti left, and that is effectively it. The only unit that has any chance... Oh, they're gone too. They crumble too. Bounce bar very much in Nagash's favor, and it looks like the Great Necromancer is actually going to pull this one out effectively by himself. I mean, I had that battle pretty much won. Well, I don't know about that, but Settra, if Settra didn't die, I was in the ascendancy. I was definitely going to pull that one out, I think. but he went down because he just couldn't get away from Nagash. And when he went down, things started going much worse for me. Necrolith Colossi crumbled. Necrosphinx wasn't able to finish off because he was able to summon zombies in those fights and absorb all that damage. And wow, I mean, Nagash is supposed to be incredibly powerful, and he definitely was in this game. I could have played around him a bit more. I think maybe if I had used like 1 or 2 more Spirit Leeches on him, he'd be dead at this point in the game, and that would have won it for me. But I also don't really like using Spirit Leeches on enemy generals. I think the gen sniping meta is a little bit cheesy. Certainly in a more cinematic focused game like this one, I don't really want to do it. But look at the kills here. Nagash, huge impact on the game. 169 kills, and he killed Settra the not so imperishable. Settra himself, 47 kills, not fantastic. I think he just got exhausted really early on in the game. Didn't feel like his magic made a big impact on the game, but he could certainly be utilized more effectively than he was in that one. My Necrolith Colossi killed a ton of Cryptors, and of course the Necrosphinx made a big impact on the game for me. So many Graveguard on the field was also pretty tough to cut through all of those. Hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Tomb Kings and Nagash. I'll be bringing you some more content very soon. See you guys next time.